Can you actually rewire your brain, not as a motivational phrase, but as a literal biological process that you can direct on purpose? Today, I am reacting to another psychiatrist who breaks down exactly how that works, which brain structures are involved, why it matters, and 3 practical strategies that actually drive this brain change. And after each segment, I am going to show you what this looks like specifically for teens with FND or functional neurological disorder and the parents, maybe you, who are supporting them. So let's dive in. Hi, my name is Dr. Lee, and for those of you who are new here, welcome. I am a pediatric health psychologist and the founder of Teen FND Academy, a coaching program that helps teens with FND and their parents get their lives back. Now, if you have been following this channel, you may have caught my earlier video where I reacted to Dr. Andrew Huberman's work on neuroplasticity. We covered sort of like the foundational idea that the brain changes every single day and can be rewired through repeated experience, whether you're a young adult, child, or older age. That video actually generated a lot of questions, and the most common one was this. Okay, Dr. Lee, but how does that actually work? And what do I actually do about it? So today's video answers exactly that. I am reacting to Dr. Tracey Marks, a psychiatrist with over 20 years of experience and one of the most trusted voices in neuroscience education on YouTube channel that I could find. Her video goes a little bit deeper than Andrew Huberman's video into which specific brain structures are involved in neuroplasticity and why that matters for recovery, especially for teens with FND, and dive into 3 practical strategies that actually drive that brain change. So let's do this.
What is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout your life. Think of it this way. Imagine you're walking through a forest and you take the same path every day. Over time, that path becomes more defined and easier to follow. Similarly, when you repeat certain thoughts or behaviors, you create well-worn pathways in your brain. The exciting part is you're not stuck with those pathways. Neuroplasticity means that you can always create new paths, and this ability is necessary for learning, personal growth, and building resilience. It's not just about recovering from brain injuries. It's about shaping your mind to adapt and thrive in the face of life's challenges.
Okay, this is really helpful. The forest path metaphor is not just a nice analogy, right? It was really nice too. It is literally how neural pathways work. So every time a signal travels the same route in the brain, that route becomes more efficient, more automatic, and easier to access. So it becomes kind of autopilot, right? The brain is always doing this to be very efficient, always strengthening what gets repeated. And what I would call it, what gets fired, gets fired. And for teens with FND, the nervous system has worn a very deep path, a path that keeps generating these symptoms, not by chance or not by on purpose, but symptoms like seizures and tremors, fatigue, weakness, tics and Tourette's-like symptoms, even when the original trigger maybe is long gone by then. The brain is not broken, it is doing exactly what brains do. It is running this most efficient route available. Remember, as I said, they're not doing it on purpose or to get attention. They are not faking it. It's pure neuroscience. The good news is, like what she said, is the same mechanism works in reverse, right? So the brain that deepened one path can create a new one. And this is not just hope and a rah-rah thing, it is a pure neuroscience. So now I'm going to cover what kind of brain structures and parts of the brain are involved with neuroplasticity.
How neuroplasticity works, let's look at the basics of brain structure. Your brain consists of billions of neurons, which are the cells responsible for processing and transmitting information. These neurons, or nerve cells, communicate with each other through connections called synapses. When you learn something new or have a novel experience, your neurons form new connections or strengthen existing ones. And this process is called synaptic plasticity. The more you repeat an action or thought, the stronger the neural pathways become. It's like creating a well-worn path in your brain. Several key brain regions are involved in neuroplasticity. The hippocampus, which is important for memory formation and spatial orientation, which is the ability for you to be able to tell how your body's positioned in space. Then there's the amygdala, which is involved in emotional processing and fear responses. And then the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for higher order thinking and decision making. And these areas work together to process new information, form new memories, and adapt to changing environments.
So, 3 brain regions to know here, like the hippocampus, which handles memory and learning, right? And then the prefrontal cortex, which handles decision-making and regulation. This is where kids can say, oh, let me stop and think before I act on it. And then the amygdala, which is your brain's threat detector. The Family Guy shares a handful of practical strategies to help you get out of this survival mode. And it shows why our structured approach gets such a strong result. Grab it from the description below. It is free. In FND, the amygdala is particularly important and relevant because it is reading the body signals as dangerous, like triggering a threat response even when there is no actual danger present. The prefrontal cortex is supposed to step in and regulate the response. It's like they're a CEO, managing the whole thing to signal the safety to the brain and the body. But when the nervous system has been running a stuck pattern for a long time, that regulation becomes harder to access. And here is also an important thing to hold on to from this segment. The prefrontal cortex right here in teenager is not fully developed yet. Not just your child, it's everybody. It is still actively being built, it's like under construction, all the way into the mid-20s. So that setup matters because I will come back to it in the next segment. So let's go for it.
So that's how neuroplasticity works. Here's why it's important for building mental strength and resilience. It impacts 4 main areas of functioning. First, adaptability. Neuroplasticity allows your brain to adapt to new situations and challenges, and this flexibility is the basis for being able to navigate the ups and downs and develop resilience. Second is learning and memory. When you have new experiences and form new neural connections, you're able to learn new skills and retain information. Being able to learn boosts your confidence and problem-solving abilities, so you can, in fact, teach an old dog new tricks. The third impact of neuroplasticity is overcoming negative patterns. Neuroplasticity empowers you to change negative thought patterns and behaviors. You can consciously and intentionally create new neural pathways and up-level poor coping skills and reshape how you respond to stress and adversity. And the fourth impact is recovery and healing. Neuroplasticity plays a vital role in recovery from brain injuries and managing mental health conditions. It offers hope for healing and improving even in challenging circumstances.
Like FND. So let me summarize it here really quick. So the prefrontal cortex over here is still developing in teens, as I mentioned, right? On the surface, that might sound like bad news for FND recovery, because if the regulation center of the brain is not finished yet, under construction, does that make things harder? Well, it can, but it is actually the opposite. Because the brain is still actively developing, it is also still actively plastic. That means the teenage brain is not set yet. It is in the window of heightened adaptability, which means the patterns it is running right now, including the FND stuck loop, are not permanent just yet. They can change more readily than an adult brain. And like I said, adult can still change, but it's much easier for kids. And this is what recovery is built on, not managing symptoms forever, giving the brain the new repeated experiences of safety, both physically, mentally, emotionally, until a new path becomes the default. The brain that learned a pattern can unlearn it, right? So let's keep going.
Several factors can impact your brain's plasticity. There's your age. Even though neuroplasticity occurs throughout life, it tends to be more pronounced in younger brains. That said, even older adults can benefit from activities that promote plasticity. A rich, stimulating environment promotes neuroplasticity. This includes engaging in new experiences, learning new skills, and exposing yourself to diverse sensory inputs. The interplay between neuroplasticity and sensory input is one of the reasons hearing loss, vision loss, and social isolation are so harmful to your mental functions. And then there's lifestyle factors. Sleep, nutrition, and exercise all play critical roles in supporting neuroplasticity.
1000%. I agree with what she's saying so far. So, how does it sound and look like and smell like for people with FND? So the environment piece is where I want to kind of stop and speak directly to parents. The environment your teen lives in is not just physical, it is also emotional and relational. After all, FND is caused by a combination of biological, psychological, and social factors. And I'm not saying this is because of the bad parenting or you're the fault or anything like that. This is just the most robust explanation of why FND happens. And the most powerful variable in that environment is you. Remember what I said about the prefrontal cortex for teens is still being under construction, right? While it is coming online slowly, steadily, but surely, parents can also serve as an external one, but not by micromanaging your teen, absolutely not by making every single decision for your teen either, but by modeling that pause, that stop, that regulate before you react, that strategy. And when you do that consistently, something called passive neuroplasticity kicks in for your child, meaning your teen does not have to consciously try to rewire their brain. That's the beauty of it. They observe the regulatory pattern you're modeling, and over time that shapes their own neural pathways. So the parent who can stay calm during an episode, who can pause instead of panics, who can regulate before responding, is literally doing neuroplasticity work on behalf of their teens developing brain. And this is what I teach parents in my program when I talk about becoming a steady leader. A regulated parent creates a regulated environment, and a regulated environment is literally the soil that neuroplasticity grows in for your child. So now let's turn into what she has to say about these 3 practical strategies in this video.
One is learning new skills. Challenging your brain with new activities stimulates the formation of new neural connections. And this could be learning something like a musical instrument, picking up a new language, or trying a new hobby. The second strategy is metacognition and mindfulness. Metacognition is thinking about thinking. The third strategy is to engage in activities that challenge your brain, such as puzzles, strategy games, or brain training apps. Even though the clinical effectiveness of brain training games is debated, any activity that engages your mind can contribute to cognitive flexibility.
This does not mean your child can play video game all day, every day, alone or with friends and not engaging anything else, okay? So let me break this down. Strategy number 1. Learning new skills. So for teens with FND, learning new skills means 3 specific things in my program. First, learning what FND actually is, not the scary version, obviously not, the accurate version. The brain is not broken. It has learned a pattern of miscommunication between the brain and the body, and that pattern can change, and it is not their fault. They're not faking, they're not being misled, and any of that. The second part is learning how that miscommunication happens. So when a teen understands the mechanism behind, sort of like the why behind their own symptoms, fear starts to loosen its grip. And same thing for the parents too. And the fear is the fuel that keeps the nervous system stuck. The third one is learning the specific tools and strategies to start retraining the nervous system. This is what we call the brain toolkit inside Teen FND Academy, building resilience and improving neurohealth. Learning these tools is itself a neuroplasticity exercise because understanding replaces fear and the brain starts building a different path. So strategy number 2, metacognition. Let's talk about this. I want to apply this one to parents specifically. Metacognition for parents means developing the ability to observe your own reactions to your teen's symptoms in real time, okay? Not like 2 months after. So when your teen has an episode, what happens inside of you? Do you panic? Do you start counting symptoms? Do you feel helpless? And all of these. Again, none of these reactions make you a bad parent because all of these reactions actually make you a good, caring, loving parent. But becoming aware of them is the first step to changing them. And changing them is how you become the steady, regulated, presence your teen's nervous system needs to learn from. Remember prefrontal cortex, you being the modeling and the passive neuroplasticity. So for you parents, self-reflection is not really optional in this process. It is a prerequisite for everything else. Not so much for the teens, again, because of the prefrontal cortex still under construction, but for you, this is really important. Now, strategy number 3, challenging activities. Let's talk about this. So for teens with FND, challenging activities are not about pushing through symptoms. Let me repeat. Challenging activities with teens with FND are not about pushing through symptoms. Okay, that's called boom and bust cycle. And no, we know that doesn't work. They are deliberate, gradual inputs that give the nervous system new experiences of safety and competence. So what does that mean? So in my program, this looks like 4 things specifically. We call it the daily menu plan, which is a teen-driven, not parents-driven, but the teen-driven list of activities they actually want to do, starting super small baby steps and then building gradually. Activity pacing, which means moving through the day in a way that does not trigger the boom-bust crash cycle. Third one is resetting, which means having tools to bring the nervous system back to the regulated state when it gets activated, whether it's too much or too little. And lifestyle recalibration, things like sleep, nutrition, and movement, not as a strict rules, but as inputs that change the biological environment the nervous system is operating on. And none of these things are one-time fix. So if you try one day, one time, and didn't work, well, guess what? They are repeated experiences. And repeated experiences are exactly what neuroplasticity runs on. So it's not just one and done. It is repeated pattern creation. If you want to see how my full program of Teen FND Academy works and how it's helping families resolve FND for real, then watch the video linked in the description box below. Dr. Tracey Marks gives you the science, okay? And what I'm giving you today is the application. What it looks like when you take that science and run it through the lens of teens with FND and the family trying to support them. That brain can change, absolutely. The nervous system can learn a new path, obviously, absolutely. And the families I see make the most progress are the ones who start living from that understanding, not just knowing it logically and intellectually. But I want to hear from you. What is the one thing that you have already tried to help your teen's nervous system reset? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one of them. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.